Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. On the show today, we are going to talk about a very pertinent but contentious issue, the Uniform Civil Code. On the 29th of May, a mega Muslim congregation organized by Jamiat Ulama-e-Hind at Deoband in Saharanpur district of Uttar Pradesh passed a resolution against the proposed Uniform Civil Code, saying it would be in contravention of not only the Constitution of India, but also Shariayat, which is the Islamic law regulating the Muslim society in the country. The resolution claimed that Islam's laws on issues like marriage, divorce, inheritance, etc. have not been created by some society, community, group or person, but that they come from their religious texts, they are part of their religious directive, and any changes to them or attempts to stop someone from following them is a clear interference with Islam and the guarantee of freedom to practice and propagate religion given in Section 25 of the Constitution. Now, this comes as more and more states, mainly ruled by the BJP, have announced plans to implement the Uniform Civil Code. In fact, the Uttarakhand government has constituted a 5-member committee to draft a Uniform Civil Code. Also, chief ministers of states like Assam and Himachal Pradesh have strongly pitched for implementation of the UCC. The question here is, the subject has been a matter of debate for years, but whether it is feasible in India or not, given the diversity India is known for, how doable is the idea of bringing about uniformity? Also, what are the challenges in doing so? To discuss this and much more on the program today, I'm joined by a panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you. With me in the studio is Mr. Firoz Bakht Ahmed, former Chancellor, Maulana Azad National Urdu University. Thank you, sir, for your time and welcome to Sansad TV. And joining us virtually are 3 eminent panelists as well. Mr. Desh Ratan Nigam, his Advocate Supreme Court. Mr. Junaid Haris, Faculty Member, Department of Islamic Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia. And Mr. Sham Suman, Legal Editor, Hindustan. Thank you, gentlemen, and welcome to Sansad TV. Mr. Firoz Bakht Ahmed, let me begin the program today with you. You moved the Supreme Court seeking direction to the government on formulation of the Uniform Civil Code. Tell us more about what your petition had, what was the contention, and what has been the progress so far.
Thank you, Tina ji, and also Sansad TV. Now, before I answer your question, let me first of all congratulate the team of your graphics, which has made a wonderful picture there, with, Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, Jewish faith, every, symbol is there. So that's a very, very appealing, graphic. So I thought I should begin with that. Now,
thank you on their behalf.
Okay, thank you. Let me come to answering your question. You asked me, when did you file your, UCC petition? I filed it on 25th of October, 2019. Then I requested it to be, in fact, to be carried it to the Supreme Court, to the Apex Court, which was done recently in the month of, I think, January. Now, why I filed it? Because, I have been feeling that different ideologies, maybe different kind of things like personal laws, maybe reservation for different sects of Indian community. All these things actually, they make India a divided house, which is not a good thing, right? India is on a fast track to becoming what we all say, the Vish Guru, the leader of the world. And our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has already become the world Prime Minister, like what we used to see in John F. Kennedy or any other US president who was considered to be the president of the world. Today it is Modi ji. Now, let me add a couple of more things. Now, you see, as far as these personal laws are concerned, whether these are Muslim or Christian or any other community, in fact, there's a lot of, misuse of these laws, especially when it comes to gender justice. Unfortunately, women, let me say it openly, I am a man, but let me say it openly that women are not given their due, whatever the religion is. And let me tell you one thing, when Islam started in Saudi Arab, in fact, it was in fact the latest religion at that time that asked for equality of women, and we actually used to say "माँ के कदमों तले जन्नत होती है." However, that is fine, but practically we see that women are not given their due. They are divorced with a triple announcement of the word talaq, which is the most heinous and horrendous thing in terms of even Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said that the filthiest thing according to me and also for God is this triple talaq in one sitting. I mean, then there are other things, marriage, the age of the girls, and then maintenance, alimony laws, gift, property, waqf board, all these things, waqf laws. So this was all humbug. And if there is a common law governing all these parameters, now if somebody breaks into the house of a Muslim, that person goes to a police station, fine. That does not depend on Sharia law that the hands of that thief should be chopped. It is not done. So for other things also, and let me assure all those people who might challenge me, let me tell them, especially from my own community, my co-religionists, that uniform civil code is not going to have any negative impact upon any tenet of Islam or for Muslims. And finally, last sentence by me, let me tell you, we have requested the Holy Court, in fact, the Honorable Court, that, as far as the Uniform Civil Code draft is concerned, take the good points of all the religions, and under the light of articles, say 25 and 44, this should be drafted, and this draft should be by either Indian Law Commission or a committee of experts. It should then be open for debate and feedback to the people of India on the website, so we get their views and reviews.
Okay, absolutely. So on the future course of action, of course, I'll come back to you. But because you've spoken about how this law will help, address the problem of gender disparity and also bring about uniformity when it comes to matters like marriage, divorce, inheritance and adoption. Mr. Haris, let me get in your perspective. Now, what has happened at this mega congregation at Deoband in Saharanpur just 2 days ago is that a resolution has been passed against any such moves to implement the Uniform Civil Code. Why opposition to a law which will bring about uniformity in our country? What is your perspective on what's happening?
देखिए, मेरा जो अप्रोच है इस सिलसिले में वो बिल्कुल क्लियर है कि जिस मुल्क में हम रहते हैं यहाँ पर जितने तरह का इबादत का तरीक़ा है, जो पूजा पद्धति है, जितने तरह के रहने सहने का अंदाज़ है, ज़ाहिर सी बात है दुनिया के किसी भी हिस्से में नहीं पाया जाता है। और ये ख़ास बात है कि हम इसे बरक़रार भी रखना चाहते हैं। हम ये भी नहीं चाहते हैं कि ये ख़त्म हो। तो ऐसी सूरत में ज़ाहिर सी बात है कि कोई भी रस्म, कोई भी रिवाज जो किसी भी मज़हब के लोग जिसे फॉलो करते हैं, और बात मज़हब ही की नहीं है, कम्युनिटी की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, जिसे फॉलो करते हों, अगर वो उनके लिए एक तरह से जुल्म सा नहीं है, तो वो तो आज़ादी उनको मिलनी चाहिए। बस इतनी सी बात है, और मैं इसी की बात कर रहा हूँ। जैसे खुद हिंदुओं के अंदर कहीं कहीं पर औरतों को मर्दों को इजाज़त है तो शादी की हुआ वगैरह में, या कहीं कहीं पर औरतों को कई कई शादी की इजाज़त है। तो क्या सवाल सिर्फ इतना ही है, ये एक डर है कि क्या जो हमारे मुल्क का ट्रेडिशन है हम उसको खत्म करने की बात कर रहे हैं या एक करने की बात कर रहे हैं? अगर एक करने की बात कर रहे हैं तो किसके मुताबिक करने की बात कर रहे हैं? वो किस कम्युनिटी के मुताबिक करने की बात कर रहे हैं? अप्रोच सिर्फ इतना ही है। और जहां तक दारुल उलूम देवबंद या इस तरह के जलसों का ताल्लुक है, तो मैं समझता हूं जब तक चीज सामने नहीं आती है कि क्या वो ड्राफ्ट बनकर के तैयार होकर के जब तक सामने नहीं आता है, तब तक पहले से तो कुछ नहीं कहा जा सकता उसमें क्या होगा और क्या नहीं हो। जब वो चीज सामने आए उसके बाद हमें देखना चाहिए कि जो हमारे मुल्क का कानून है, जो हमारे मुल्क का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, वो उसकी जो बेसिक जो थिंग्स हैं उसके अकॉर्डिंग कितना सही है और कितना गलत है।
जी बिल्कुल।
मैं समझता हूं इस तरह से अगर सोचा जाए तो वो ज़्यादा बेहतर होता।
Absolutely. So what actually happens and how states bring in their own laws is something that we'll have to see and then respond accordingly. But Mr. Nigam, coming to you to understand, in the wake of recent developments, how obviously there is vehement opposition. Now, this is not a subject matter of debate that has emerged in recent times. It has been a contentious issue for several years. We speak about it. There is vehement opposition. And two main charges which we have been not able to address even till date is that it neglects India's diversity and that it is contrary to right to freedom of religion. How are we going to address these two issues?
Tina ji, let us be very, very clear that Jamiat Ulama-e-Hind's resolution is against the Article 44 of the Constitution, which speaks of endeavors to, implement uniform civil code. That is one aspect. And Supreme Court has time and again said, once a national policy is made on directive principle of state policy, it is enforceable, and they have always upheld that policy. Now, coming back to the diversity issue and the other questions that you have raised, if you recall, I am going to slightly pre-independence days. There was a Karachi resolution of the Congress which talked about uniform civil code. Even in our parliament, it was, Ambedkar, Nehru, everybody wanted uniform civil code. Yes, the orthodox section of the Muslims opposed it. So actually the code that had to be uniform code turned out to be a Hindu code bill, which was further split into four acts like Hindu Succession Act, Hindu Marriage Act, Adoption and Maintenance Act, and Minority and Guardianship Act. So what was to be a uniform civil code became the Hindu, and the reforms have been brought in the community, and all Hindus are governed by that. If somebody is violating it, there are ways of holding them accountable and bringing under the ambit of law. Now, the fact remains that anybody who opposes this probably ignores the unilateral divorce which is there. This cannot be under any circumstances can be upheld by any wildest of imagination. Polygamy, in whichever religion it is, and halala. And let me tell you, this is an inheritance so far equal rights to boys and girls and the daughters especially. This is about the unity and integrity of the country and also gender equality and gender justice. If you look at from the point of gender equality and gender justice, I think all the arguments will, fail. The moment you say that daughters should have equal rights, I don't think anybody can oppose that. And I'm telling you, there are fathers who used to say there should not be any uniform civil code, but once their daughters had to go through, they all now are in favor of their uniform civil code. Once it happens to you, then you come in favor of uniform civil code. And there are plenty of, and let me tell you, in the courts I've met Muslims, they all want, because they've gone through this, inhumane practice of, polygamy, halala, and all these kinds of things. Is very torturous. Imagine the kind of scar that leaves on the family and the daughters that have to go through all this. And the conservative and the orthodox do not want it. The groups like Jamiat Ulama-e-Hind want the entire Indian society to remain in a black hole so that nobody comes out of it. Yes, I agree that there should be wider discussion. Yes, I agree it is not to be rushed through. Every opinion and shades have to be taken into consideration. And, let me tell you, there has to be an exception here also. Scheduled tribes have their very different culture and they have been given protection under the Constitution, various protection under the Constitution. That aspect has to be dealt separately.
Yes.
So in my opinion, Constitution, it is the move, if at all it comes in the Parliament in the form of a bill, it is constitutional, valid in terms of Article 44 and in view of the various judgments given by the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court has time and again requesting the Parliament to enact the law. It cannot give a directive to Parliament. Yes, it has been requesting the successive parliaments, to look into it. And I believe the matter will be taken up urgently and some kind of an effort will be put in towards enacting this law as soon as possible.
Certainly, but given the opposition and the contentions that remain, how the government will build consensus on this is something that I'll come back to you and understand. Mr. Suman, your perspective on how more and more BJP-ruled states are, strongly pitching for the idea of uniform civil code. In fact, the Pushkar Dhami-led government in Uttarakhand has also formed a committee to actually look into this aspect and sort of fast-track the implementation. All this while, we've only debated, but in the wake of opposition and for reasons, for multiple reasons, the debate has died down only to re-emerge later. This time, some kind of movement in not one, but at least half a dozen states. How legally tenable, how feasible do you think it's going to be?
Yes, Tina ji, thank you. You have asked very pertinent question. And as Mr. Nigam has already elaborated on the issue, Supreme Court has passed several judgments. I remember at least 5 judgments where Supreme Court has said and asked the government and directed the successive government time and again to enact UCC law. When there is no impediment from any side, I think the court has given the direct mandate. Then you said that Uttarakhand government has constituted a committee, and a few days back, I was sitting with someone and he told me that it is a very, very positive step and it is a pilot project, type of pilot project. And this committee will be replicated in the 5 BJP or as many as in BJP ruled state, and they will give the report. But ultimately, central government will bring a law, because if several states pass some law, Uttarakhand pass some law, Uttar Pradesh pass some law, and Himachal Pradesh some other law, then there must be some lack of cohesion may be there. So to remove that cohesion, government of India will bring a central law to remove all that difficulties and repugnancy in the law. So I think this is a very, very positive step government of Uttarakhand has taken. And you must understand one thing, the government of Uttarakhand, this step has not taken unilaterally. Central government has given it a direction to the Uttarakhand government to take the step ahead and do the basic things first. Yeah.
But I think going forth, what's important, Mr. Ahmed, is to have a centralized law instead of different states adopting different provisions in the law, which of course will lead to a lot of cohesion, as Mr. Suman pointed out. One important point that I want to take on from what Mr. Nigam pointed out was any kind of change, of course, meets with resistance. We've seen that, but when those reforms are brought about, they bring about positive changes in people's lives, people begin accepting them. Are you hopeful? And we've seen that in the case of instant triple talaq as well. Are you hopeful that despite the opposition, despite several bones of contention, we will be able to sit together with stakeholders and have consensus on the Uniform Civil Code?
No, it's right. Long time ago, in fact, when people used to say, and I'm reminded of Galileo, the world is not round, the world is rectangular, whatever. So it took quite a long time for people to accept that the world is round, and from round to elliptical. Fine. Now, coming back to your question, you see, the other day I was in a conclave of Panjanne and organizer for completion of their 90 years or something similar. So there I heard the Chief Minister of Assam saying that he will implement this Uniform Civil Code. Dhami ji also came, the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand. He also said that he has already started it in UP also. And Mr. Shyam Suman is absolutely on target. It should be a centralized thing. It should not be, it's already there, I believe, in Goa, right? There's no problem in Goa. People are at peace at home. However, it should be centralized. And in fact, as people are now, they have settled to 370 and 35A. They have, Muslims have settled to this very, very pugnacious and filthy, triple talaq, which was taking place in our, system. So people have settled. And in fact, let me tell you, there's a fall of 80 to 90% of the talaqs in Muslim community after that law was settled. Now, having said that, let me also tell you one thing. I appreciate Mr. Harris when he said that this Uniform Civil Code draft has actually not been there. It has not been drafted. Let it be drafted. And I object to what Mr. Madani in a huge gathering at Darul Uloom said, that he will not accept this Uniform Civil Code. Arey bhai, why will you not accept? India will not be run by either Sharia law or maybe Sanatan law or any Vedic or Christian law.
But the
India
fact-
has a constitution. India will be run by the constitution, the world's largest constitution by B.R. Ambedkar.
But the fact, sir, here is that when you use platforms and when you use these mass events to send across a message that one particular community is, being targeted, that community will feel insecure and give rise to these objections that we are hearing of. Mr. Harris, let me come to you on that point. Uniformity will be for several communities and not just one community. What is it that is making just one community insecure? Is it the politicians who are driving this fear among the community, or the contentious issues that have not been addressed, effectively by the government? Please unmute, sir.
Please unmute.
You'll have to unmute, Mr. Harris. Please unmute yourself. Yes, please.
मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि जो जुल्म है, जुल्म तो हर हाल में खत्म होना चाहिए। अभी बात मैं आपको ट्रिपल तलाक से मैं कह रहा हूँ, नो डाउट कुरान के अंदर ट्रिपल तलाक, एक मजलिस की 3 तलाक जो है वो गलत है। यहाँ पर कम्युनिटी में भी ऐसे मानने वाले लोग ऑलरेडी मौजूद थे। अब अगर गवर्नमेंट ये कहती है कि हमने एक कानून बना दिया, उसकी वजह से इसके अंदर कमी आई, मैं समझता हूँ कि ये मुमकिन है, लेकिन हकीकत ये है कि यहाँ पर ऑलरेडी कम्युनिटी में इस टाइप के लोग थे जो एक मजलिस की 3 तलाक को 1 मानते थे, और ऐसे लोग भी थे जो एक मजलिस की 3 तलाक को 3 मानते थे, यानी उसे गलत मानते थे कि एक मजलिस में 3 तलाक नहीं दे। सिर्फ पागलपन इससे समझा जाता है कि एक बार में कोई 3 तलाक दे दे। सिर्फ इस्लाम के अंदर जैसे कि एक बहुत मजबूरी में अगर अलग होना ही है, पहली बात तो भी फिरोज बख्श साहब ने बहुत अच्छी बात कही थी कि इस्लाम के अंदर तलाक देना जायज कामों में सबसे बुरा काम समझा गया है, लेकिन अगर मजबूरी हो ही जाए तो अलग होना है तो उसका अपना एक प्रोसेस है। लेकिन इस गुस्से में आकर के 3 तलाक ने अकॉर्डिंग टू इस्लाम भी गलत था, और इस पर कानून बन गया और अच्छी बात हुई, इसको अप्रिशिएट हम करते, लेकिन पहले से ये चीज मौजूद थी।
लेकिन इस पर भी ऑपोजिशन हुआ था।
गलत तो गलत ही कहा जाएगा, मैं पूरी बात कह लूं। ऐसे ही हलाला का जो चीज है, हलाला को हमेशा से गलत कहा जाता है, इस्लाम ने भी गलत कहा। हलाला और नियोग टाइप की चीजों को खत्म होना चाहिए, चाहे वो हलाला हो चाहे नियोग हो। जिस मजहब से भी ताल्लुक रखता है उसकी वजह से प्रॉब्लम होती है कि हम जबरदस्ती किसी औरत के इज्जत का सौदा करते हैं और कहते हैं कि वो कहीं और दे अगर वो नहीं चाहती है, तो वो बिल्कुल गलत है। इन सब चीजों को कोई सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहा है, लेकिन फिर बात वहीं पर आती है कि जो चीजें आराम के साथ कम्युनिटी के साथ बैठ करके गवर्नमेंट तय कर सकती है, उसको पॉलिटिकल इशू बना करके लाना किसी भी तरफ से, वो तो सही नहीं है ना। ये शरीयत का अभी फिरोज बख्श साहब ने एक बात कही कि शरीयत से गौर नहीं होगा, मैं इससे इत्तेफाक करता हूं, लेकिन एक चीज मैं जरूर कहना चाहता हूं, और वो ये है कि शरीयत खुद इस बात को कहती है कि आप किस चीज को फॉलो करें, लॉ ऑफ द लैंड को फॉलो करें। अगर इस मुल्क के अंदर अगर कोई चाहेगा कि इस्लामाइजेशन हो जाए तो भी गलत है, अगर कोई चाहेगा कि इसका हिंदू राष्ट्र हो जाए तो भी गलत है। ये शरीयत कहती है, तो शरीयत को तो फॉलो हम करने की बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन शरीयत खुद कहती है कि किसी मुल्क के कानून को फॉलो किया जाए, हर चीज में फॉलो किया जाए, ठीक है ना।
I think that's a very valid point, Mr. Nigam, and I think he's hit the nail on the head that the law of the land has to be followed. So if the consensus is built, the opinions of all stakeholders is taken on, before actually formulating a uniform civil code and effectively addressing all of their concerns, all of their insecurities, this is something that could see light of the day.
Tina, in fact, this law is there in the horizon since prior to independence, and huge amount of discussion and literature is already available on the subject. And it's not that it is suddenly coming up into the picture. When the draft laws come, they are debated in parliament, and everybody is there in parliament from all religions and all sections of the society and community, and it has to be discussed threadbare if they want to. Yes, opposition wants to, although there is a trend that the opposition tries to walk out of the parliament, saying that we do not agree, instead of constructively participating in those debates, then something good will come out. Yes, Mr. Harris has agreed. Whatever is good in Sharia probably may be reflected because it is applicable to all the communities. But what is not to be accepted has to be rejected. Please understand that. And this is a country where the constitution itself provides under Article 44 for uniform civil code. So such kind of resolutions only bring the divide in the country, like the Jamiat Ulama-e-Hind, Mr. Madani, because I was also listening to him. What was said in those resolution in that congregation was something I don't approve of, but what he says on television is something different, diametrically opposite to it. So that kind of politics should also not be played, because then people get misled.
Absolutely.
Yes, the entire communities or everybody has to be consulted, and I am sure that huge amount of literature is already available. In fact, in 2019 and 2018, I believe the Law Commission said that it is not required or needed. It was an interim report, not the final report. But the fact remains, they also recognize these problems with the various communities. Like
absolutely. And in this age that we are living in, we can say that uniform civil code, something that talks about uniformity, equality, gender justice, is not just desirable, but the need of the hour. It is necessary to bring about gender parity in our country. A lot of Western countries, a number of Islamic countries as well have a common code. And that is where we need to act on. But unfortunately, Mr. Ahmed, politics always takes precedence over reforms. We've seen that in case of farm laws. What should be done by the government to ensure that when such a move is taken on uniform civil code, politics does not, overlook the much needed reforms that we're talking about, which have already been delayed?
You see, Tina ji, that at least, as Mr. Harris was speaking, I could make out that he has appreciation for this government. This is a well-meaning and honest government. And if any, uniform civil code is going to be established, before this, the draft will be thrown open to public, to all the Muslims, Hindus, Jews, Buddhists, Jains, everyone, to Christians. And finally, there will be a debate. After that debate, it will come into formation. And you have very rightly said that there are almost 56 Islamic countries. Many of them, most of them, have the laws which are codified. Even Pakistan has a law. Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arab, UAE, they have their own codified laws, and everyone accepts them. Let me tell you a last comment of mine. Touch wood, Muslims of India, they are patriotic, they are nationalists, and they know that if they will strengthen the arms of this governance run by Prime Minister Modi, in fact, India will become the wish guru. India will become a $5 trillion economy, but we have to strengthen the arms of this good governance. And uniform civil code will be a part of it. No Muslim will be impacted, no Christian or any Buddhist will be impacted. And let it come. और आखिर में हारिस साहब बता दूं, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड लोग क्या कहते हैं, ये तो अभी ट्रेन आई नहीं प्लेटफॉर्म पे, आने से पहले आप कह रहे हैं इसमें एसी नहीं है, इसमें सीटें नहीं है, इसमें टॉयलेट नहीं है, अरे आने तो दो, देख तो लो पहले. सो वी हैव टू बी दैट वे. Uniform civil code will not be against any community, and let us accept it.
So let's see, for now, more and more states have, made that much required move. But when the union government actually comes up with that uniform civil code we've been talking about, which should be a centralized law as well, is something that we'll have to wait and watch. It's already been delayed, as you said. It's been a subject matter of debate for decades. But now that we are debating it, now that more and more states are talking about it, let's all be hopeful. It's been on the agenda of this government. But how soon is something we'll have to wait and watch.
Can I be allowed, if there is 1 second, to read a sentence from Apex Court 2003 judgment?
Yes, very quickly, sir.
This is a very, yes. John Walatham versus Union of India 2003. The Apex Court said this thing, inverted commas begin, a common civil code will help the cause of national integration by removing all contradictions based on ideologies.
Okay,
unquote.
So everyone supports the idea, but how soon, only time will tell. With that, I'll have to wrap up the discussion. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the program today and sharing your thoughts, your views with us and our viewers. Pleasure having you on the program today. So that's it from us on this edition of Perspective. Thank you to all our viewers as well for your time. See you again tomorrow. Thank you once again.